We're live at Behind the Scenes. Welcome, everybody. And we've got a good crowd today. And we are going to talk today about, let me see, first of all, Jody, I'm going to mute you just because we're live, and why not? So we have a very active Facebook group where parents are really supporting each other. It's called Working Hard to Raise Teens, which is a really good title because we all work hard to raise our teens. And periodically topics come up where we're like, we should really talk about it because it's universal. And in fact, I mentioned Kelly Corrigan like once a week, but she has a podcast and she had on Anna Quinlan, and Anna, who does Sex, Money, and there's two Annas. One is Anna Q, and I can't remember the other woman's name, but she has a great podcast also. And they have done a series together of podcasts. And on one of them, it was, can you be hurt? Should you feel hurt by your kids? Like, is that a good relationship between you and your kids for them to know that they can hurt you? And Anna Quinlan tells a story about how her daughter told her she hated her. And when her daughter left the room, Anna Quinlan started to cry. And one of her sons came in and saw her crying and said, "Are you okay?" And the mom told him the story. And the two brothers went and like ganged up on this sister and they were like, "You made mom cry." And so she came cowering in and was like, "I'm sorry, I love you." That never happened in my house. The first part did, but the second part never happened in my house, where everyone felt terrible about like mom being really sad. But when you have 5 kids, someone is always making you feel really sad about something. And so the moral in my house, what I had to learn was, and I didn't do it well, and it took me way too long, that I couldn't internalize it. I had, for my own well-being and for my kids' well-being, I had to see it as something else happening and not being about me. And if they were listening right now, they would say I failed, but I got better. I definitely got better. So I'm hoping someone here has the tools to tell you how to do it. I just know that there was one summer where it was like prevalent. I just felt like everybody was kind of making me feel badly. And I just did that internal talk of saying, if you are going to survive parenting, you're going to let some of those things go. So still a work in progress. I am going to pass it to Sharon.
I really relate to what you said about not taking it personally, Sue, because I mean, there are always going to be those times where you're told you're the worst, or, or worse than that. And I guess my goal is always to try to make sure that I don't make them feel that I think they're the worst or that I hate them. So, I mean, there's a certain amount of cool we have to try to keep in those situations, which can be so hard. So we do a lot of apologizing too. That's my other tool. Like if I'm the one who snaps or, just is unreasonably angry about stuff, I always try to apologize to try to set the tone for that's what we do in this family. My teenagers are still kind of young, so there's not been anything too horrible yet, but I just want to say we're on the same team, but it can be so hard if they really lash out. So I don't know. I don't have the answers, but we're all working on it, I think. I'm going to pass to Mindy.
Thanks, Sharon. I think for me, my husband once told me years and years ago that when I get hurt, when someone hurts me, I get angry. And that's sort of my default. And I think he's right. So when my kids would hurt me, I think rather than whether words or actions, I tended to get mad, to get angry. And that's not always clearly the best thing to do. So I have 3 boys, and I would say they rarely saw me cry because my response would be to be anger, and then it would lead to a fight and, eventually calm down and we'd be okay. I do remember, though, walking into a rec center with my youngest when he was probably in middle school. And he turned around and looked at me and said, "You're not walking in with me, are you?" And that, I think, rather than the "I hate you," because that was usually in an argument or, I broke a rule. That, I think, when I was totally innocent and just walking with him, and for him to, and I was, oh, no, I waited a few steps. That, I think, was one of the most hurtful things. And it's a silly thing, but I don't know. I just never thought my kid didn't want to be seen with me. I have no words of wisdom. I would say don't get angry. That's not a good default button. But as Sue said, still working on it. It's just tough. I think it's really tough. And I don't think there's any one way. I think each family deals with it differently. The one thing, though, we did not allow, and Eka, you can go after me because I believe you felt the same way. We didn't allow disrespect. So you could get angry in our house and you could get hurt. We could yell and we could fight, but we just didn't allow disrespect. That was just not okay. And I think that probably kept everybody, that was an expectation set by my husband early on. And I think that kind of helped us. It helped us to muddle through those really tough times by, you can get angry, you can be sad, mom can get angry, but you can't disrespect. So that's the one word of advice I would have too is, you could not be disrespectful. And Eka, I'll pass it to you because I know you and I have talked about this, and you were pretty much the same way in your house. Am I correct?
Yeah, Mindy, you're right that we were, and I know that there's a lot of people saying, you shouldn't censor your children. You should let them feel. But you know what? I always believed if I'm going to be respectful of you, you're going to be respectful of me. And so when there was a lot of disrespect going on, I would stop and I would say, okay, you know what? This is going somewhere. That's not going to be productive. I mean, I wouldn't say it that way because I'd be pissed. I'd be like, okay, you know what? Let's take a break. Let's stop. Everyone go into their own rooms and everybody calm down before any of us say anything that we regret. And that is going to be really painful. So we did have those, timeout for me too, because I could feel my blood starting to boil. How dare you talk to me? I wasn't going to start that. I do have one story though I want to share is I was driving my daughter to see a friend and she was in middle school and she just started being very disrespectful and just mouthing off to me. And I said, and I was sitting here just listening to it. I was getting really hurt. And I finally said, you're not doing me a favor by letting me drive you to your friend's house. I'm actually doing you a favor. And I kind of am done with this right now. So we're turning around and we're going home and I'm done. I for some reason today, I'm not dealing well with this. So I'm not driving to your friend's house and we're done for the next hour or so, because this is not the way I raised you. And this is not the way I want to be treated. And she realized that she had pushed my buttons just too far. But we put space. I mean, I think time and space was the best thing for us both. Because like Mindy, I started getting mad and then I started getting resentful. And I was like, I don't want to be that mother. So I did take a step aside and sometimes I said, I need to take a time out. So those were tough. Those were tough days, man. Those are like, right to the heart when you do that. Because you put so much into what you want to, like, as a parent. It's like you give so much of yourself and then that disrespect, it's just so painful. Ugh. But anyway, okay, I could go on forever. So I'm going to pass it to Jen.
Thanks, Eka. We've had some people chime in. I don't know, Sue, if you want to put up any comments that we're getting. This is obviously hitting a nerve. There are some people who are commenting about how they've experienced this. And a few people who are wondering whether it's easier with boys versus girls, which I can't answer for you because I am raising girls. Notice I'm using the present tense, am raising, even though they are in their 20s or one's about to be and one is in their 20s. I think this job goes on a really long time. My only word of wisdom is I think it's okay to show your kids that you have feelings, that you're a human being. I think our kids think that we're on some different planetary plane from them and that we've graduated out of having feelings and that we're impervious. And we're not doing them any favors by not showing them when we're hurt or when we're sad or when we're upset. And I think it's so much better if we can verbalize it and say, ouch, that hurt. And then I just vacate myself from the conversation. Like Eka said, I give myself a timeout, but I let them know that they hurt me, because they certainly don't spare me that option of letting me know I've hurt them. But I try to leave it there. And I leave it to them to come back, but you always have to leave the door open to repair. If you don't offer them a path back, then it just gets worse and worse and worse. But you don't have to make it easy for them. You can let them know, wow, that really hurt. I'm going to take a little time out to lick my wounds for a little bit. Let them feel bad for a little. If they may not show that they felt bad, but I guarantee you they felt bad. They knew they went too far. And their way of saying sorry isn't going to be the way we think it's going to be. It's not going to be, oh, Mom, I'm really sorry. That was terrible. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. It's going to be that maybe they empty the dishwasher without being asked. Or maybe they just they might leave a little flower by your bedside table or something. The words don't come easily. Just accept it and say, this is what I'm getting at this point. This is a long-term process of how to teach our kids how to mend relationships. And the best you can do is just to accept it with grace and know that they'll do better and that you'll keep doing better too. And I think that's the only, oh my gosh, we're having a cat fight behind me. All right, I'm going to pass it to Emily.
Okay, Emily, before you jump in, I'm just going to share a few of these comments. And also, I want to say that we're all here just telling you as moms what we're doing our best at. And so we're not the professionals. We're happy to answer your questions with what we think we did and what worked for us. And we offer on our website lots and lots of professional advice. So, and in our morning interviews as well. So I want to give Toby a little shout out here, because I think we often, I just lost it. Here it is. We often feel a little shy to shout out our wins. So I just want to say, Toby Snyder, good for you. And we don't know if it's what you did or if you lucked out, but whatever it is, it's really nice to be saying this and we're celebrating with you. And then Michelle, I want to put out there, I have 3 girls and 2 boys, and I agree with you that it does depend on their individual personalities, but there is in my house a little more tension between mom and the girls and dad and the boys, even though dad would deny it, but it is entirely true. Who else do we have here that we want to give? How do you feel about asking your kids for apologies or suggesting it? So I have a little bit of a different perspective, Sherry, in my house, which is that, my kids cross the line probably more than a lot of the people on this call would tolerate. And I did try to unearth what was behind it. So I didn't always jump in with you cannot talk to me like this. First of all, it didn't get me anywhere when I said that. But I did not wait for apologies. I give them, but I did not wait for them. And I'm sure that there's many to disagree with that, but that's just offering you kind of the approach in the Borison household. So I now turn it over to Emily.
All right. Well, I feel like I could talk about this the whole day. So I, for better or for worse, I think I've had a lot of experience with this situation. I think I'm more on your line, probably, Sue. I grew up I'm an only child, and my household, I was a rule follower. I wanted to please my parents, and they were there were just very strong lines of you do not say certain things, you do not do certain things. This is the right way to do things. And I felt like as a parent, I wanted my kids to be more able to say what they were feeling. And so a lot of times, I fall back on a lot of toddler management, I feel like, in the teenage years. So one of the things I would say with the temper tantrums is you can get as mad as you want. I'm not going anywhere. I will always be here, mom can take it. Bring it on. I'm still going to be here. And also one of our preschool teachers, who's super wise and we're still in touch with, had said the fact that your kids can let all this stuff out with you really shows that they are willing to be vulnerable and have those feelings around you. So that was kind of where I was at a starting point. And then when we got, and my husband has very much the same, like more of the reaction as I grew up with, like, and more of what I would say Mindy's, you know, like when he gets hurt, he gets mad, and it becomes more of like this disciplinarian thing. So anyway, that's kind of what we were working with. And then we got to the teenage years, and I had to evolve those, that kind of perspective. And so now I definitely incorporate some of the timeout and some of the timeout for myself and for the teens. And just this idea, like, look, I really want, clearly whatever is happening, whether it's like saying like you have to do something or you can't do something, or, you know, each kid does this kind of activity, you can choose within a range or whatever we're talking about, that somehow triggered this horrible reaction, is there's a lot going, something is really hitting a nerve with you, kid. I'm happy to talk to you about it, but we're going to have to talk about it in a different way. And I do think, I love what Jen said about, yes, we're training them to have relationships. And I was thinking this morning about like that idea that like when you're in a couple, like you have to learn how to fight fair, fight the right way. Like we're also training them to do that. So we can't expect them to know how to do it or take it personally when they don't. But, and then Sue, you said something, I will just end on this, about the one summer that you felt was really hard. I have a 17-year-old and I have twins who are 14. And it used to be like when the older child was angry and upset, we had the twins who were still young enough that they were like very positive and lovey. And then like, I guess it was 2 summers ago when they were 12 and we had the 12 and the 15, 16. And then my husband and I just looked at each other and we're like, oh shit, like we are completely outnumbered now. And we had like, you know, the family trip where all 3 of them were unhappy with the tour of the cathedral or whatever museum. And we're like, this is it. We're really in for it now. But luckily now our 17-year-old has really come back and is just like this lovely young adult. And so they do come back. I think that's also something really important to remember, that it does seem to be a stage. And I don't know. I just try to tell myself that it is an honor to be that person for them, that they are willing to let it all out for and be vulnerable with. So that's my rambling. Jody, I'll go to you.
Okay. Hi. So, I mean, I'm like nodding my head to all of these things, but I think I will say that I've made every mistake. I get Mindy, I get angry. I'm a yeller, you know, like all sorts of things. But, you know, and I've tried everything and nothing works and then everything works. Like, so, but I think what I've kind of come down to is, and I'm seeing some of these comments too about, is it harder with boys or girls or whatever? And I think what I realize is that I've had to figure out a different strategy for each of my kids to, you know, make it work. And by the way, it doesn't always work. So whatever. But, you know, so there's one who is just so mild mannered and nothing will get, you know, and sometimes I would have to, you know, he would have to see me agitated for him to kind of respond in any kind of way. And, you know, so it would just be like a slow boil until there would be some kind of explosion. And then, you know, that would be it for months really. And, you know, whatever. And with another, I don't have the answer. And with a yet still, whatever. But actually the thing that worked most was his sibling pressure, where they would just say, you know, because nobody, you know, so, and then with the other, I mean, and a really funny thing with this apology thing, you know, at the end of whatever we would go through, this one would say, I accept your apology, when I hadn't even, but that was that one's way to apologize to me. And we, you know, I was like, okay, you know, whatever. I mean, it was just, but that was a, you know, kind of a funny thing. So I guess I will say, you know, in the big picture, I think being able to have a sense of humor also really helps. Remembering, you know, that at the end of the day, whatever it is, my husband and I would walk the dog at the end of the day, and it's like, you know, at the end of the day, we're still really lucky, you know, like whatever it is, like, you know, and I mean, we felt, you know, it's going to be okay, and we're going to get through this. So, I mean, I think having that kind of, you know, further perspective than being in the heat of the moment. And then the other thing that I work on, wish I were better at, and I do think with no matter what, is trying to remove, you know, trying to take that break or get away from it. I would be one of those people who just want to keep piling on and piling on. And, you know, I think kids listen to about the first 10 seconds of what you say, and then that's it anyway. So, you know, being able to resist sharing all of my wisdom and anger and frustration, maybe not in that order, doesn't work. So really trying to just wait until there was a time, you know, and that, you know, where you can reflect. And actually with my, you know, and then we've ended up having some good conversations, but, you know, that's a work in progress. So I don't know. It is hard. And, you know, can't live with them, can't live without them, right? You know, that's the beauty of it. So, all right, Kamira, what do you got?
What do I have? I think a little bit of everybody. I'm old school parent with some new school influence. The new school influence is no hitting. There was no hitting in my house, which a lot of my background people were like, what? And a little more patience to allow, so that, because I wanted to be sure to be a disciplinarian, but not an oppressor, because I didn't want to stifle personalities. But it was hard. But you know, when they become teens, you've already set some expectations. I received 2 good pieces of advice. One was, it's really convenient to let them know that you're just a little bit crazy, so that keeps them on their toes. By the time mine reach teen years, they realize I am a little bit crazy. I've proven it. I'm not. If you push me too far, I will discipline you in public. We have all sons. I am 5'3", and I've been the shortest in the house for a very long time. So very early on, when they, you know, start to feel mannish, I've made sure that they understand that means absolutely nothing in our house, that I am still the boss. And whenever one of them gets upset, I have key phrases. There are things like, is there a problem? Or if one of them's upset, now that they all tower over me and put their elbows on my head, I say to them when they're angry, do I hear bass in your voice? Because then they know that they are being mannish, and that they are not allowed to do that with me. What happened when they became teens that I really enjoyed for me is I could be completely honest. And when they're little, you can't be so honest about who you are and how you feel. I could be honest, and honest may mean cussing, or it may mean, you know what? I really do feel like hitting you right now. So you need to go in your room and stay there until I come in, until I calm down. And they just look at me. I'm not very good at being vulnerable, but I was recently with our youngest because he said something that was hurtful. And I told him, I said, you know what I just heard is that I'm not a good parent. And I didn't like the way that felt, especially since I work really hard at this parenting gig. And I could tell, you know, he flushed a little, he changed, because that's not what he meant to say. He didn't mean to say I screwed up the entire gig. And I told him, you can be mad at me, that's okay, but don't take the totality of everything that I've done, all 17 years of your life, and boil it down to this one thing, because that hurt my feelings. And I think I'm the last one, huh? Oh, am I the last one?
Jessica.
Yeah, I don't think I went. I don't have like a big story. I don't have kids. But I do have like a flashbulb memory sort of being 13, and I was on the computer, and it was my little brother's turn to get the computer, and I just remember being like, I hate you, and going upstairs, finding something else to do. It was just like such a casual thing that I said, and then I got yelled at by my dad, like you can't just say that, like your little brother's been crying for 20 minutes, and like everybody's so upset. And I remember even being annoyed, like, why is he so upset? It's like the stupid, like, of course I don't hate him. Like, it was just such a casual, like, nothing phrase to me. So I guess if it's any consolation, like, you know, to a teenager saying I hate you is just such, it was just such a meaningless phrase to me that it didn't occur to me that it could actually hurt someone. So take that as you will. That's all I got. Guess I'll pass it back to Sue.
All right. Well, I've got to say this was really meaningful today. And I think everybody added such beautiful words here from their own experiences. Not to single out one of the favorite students today, but Emily's honor to be their parent and be their trusted parent really moved me a lot. And I also, there's so many really beautiful comments over here. I'm sorry we didn't have time to share all of them, but I do think that Toby makes one point, which is that she's reacting to how she was raised as a child. And I think that so much of what we do as parents is in reaction to what we either liked or didn't like when we were kids. Anyway, it's a journey. Thank you all for being here today. And we're so grateful for all of your comments. I really am sorry we didn't get to all of them, but we wish you a good week and continued success in trying to not take it personally. Take care, everybody.